Hello, this is Ian. This is Somerset News Network. What I'd like to talk about today is the energy price, the electric price in particular. I got a letter from EDF, who's my electrical supplier, and they charge me for electric and gas. Now, they tell me that last year I was paying 24.5 pence a unit. This year they now tell me I'm paying 29.8 pence a unit. But now they got new tariffs coming. Flexible. Variable they call it. Standard variable. How can you have standard variable? It's either standard prices or variable prices. Anyway, they call it standard variable. And that fluctuates. Well, it fluctuates anyway, because you've got nighttime uses, which is cheaper than daytime uses. So if you're a night owl, you can do your washing at night, and it's going to save you money. Well, all they've given me is the price I paid last year and the new price under the new tariffs. And they worked it out for electric. I would pay £1,111. I expect I'll be paying a little bit more than that, but that's what they say on my yearly average. Now, if you work it out on the amount of units and divide it by the price, it comes out at 33.7 pence a unit. Now, the unit price is going to be more than that because you get a cheaper rate at night. So when your electric pump's going for the central heating and when your night light's on, when I'm uploading videos on this computer, and I don't use a lot of electric, but it's at a cheaper rate. And I'm going to be paying more than 33.7 pence a unit. So how's that going to help people? If every time you look round, they're putting prices up. I can't put my wages up in the workshop because I'm going to lose work. I fix my prices to the market. If I charge over market prices, then I'm not going to get the work. I get the work because I work cheap. I do the work. I got a man that does the welding for me. He's better welder than I am. But I got a pacemaker, so they won't let me do welding. And that's all I got to pay for. And he comes down, once a month. I set everything up, and he does my deacs for me. I deac firearms. And obviously, if I'm using a welding kit, lots of electric's used during the day. But it'll be at the higher rate, and it'll be more. I only averaged it out at 33.7 pence a unit. It's obviously going to be more than that. So how, as a business, can I afford extra electric charges? I got the workshop adjacent to the house, and I had a word with the tax office and said, how do I account for the electric, the amount of electric I use, and renting the space off at me? Ever so nice lady on the phone. You work it out on the percentage of area of your house. You've got the value of the house You know how much your mortgage is, and you divide it by 6 or 8, however big a house you got. So I worked it out that my workshop is a sixth of the floor space of my house. And then I put on £10 a week to pay for electric. Now my wife is looking at it and saying, I think you're going to have to pay a little bit more for electric to make it fair. Although the house is still the same price, we paid the mortgage off, so that's not going to change. So I'm going to have to put my electric allowance up, maybe to £15 or £20 a week. I think it'll be 15. It's only a rough guess, because I got a pillar drill, I got grinders, I got the lathe, I got the welding kit, and the welding kit will use the electric. So I think £15 a week is going to be about fair. My electric bill is over £100 a month. You know, if it's £15 a week, that's £60 a month. So £10 is about right, but I can up it to 15, and that helps pay the rent for the workshop, and then that ups that rent as well. You know, and I pay myself or allowance per month for the workshop. Now, I can't put my prices up because gun shops are going broke right, left and centre around here because they can't afford to keep going. Now, I'm just a workshop. I'm not a retail outlet. I just repair guns. That's all I do. And I do as much as I can myself. But I'm not making any money. Like I said, last year I paid £750 tax. So I'm not making a lot of money. But I've had a lot of expenses because we've had to redo the workshop, get new tools, and I use Dremels. I use a lot of Dremel tools in what I do. And I've burnt out 3 Dremel tools in 5 years. So last year I bought another one, a new one. And it's all expenses. I get through drills for a pastime. You know, I've got a company called UK Drills, which I buy my drills off. They're reasonably priced, but if you're breaking one and you can only use one for a while and it's scrap, you know, even though I know how to sharpen them, I don't know what's wrong with the drills, but they break for a pastime. I don't think the quality is there like it used to be. I don't think that the quality in the steel and the hardening and tempering of the drills. Now, we've got to fight all this as a business. And on top of this, they're putting the electric price up. You know, it's tax allowable for me. If I'm renting my workshop off of me, I can allow that in the tax, and the tax man's explained that to me. But, you know, if I'm part-time, I've got a pension. I've got the state pension. Because I've got the pension, you know, I don't need to work 24/7. So I work part-time. I work when the work comes in. But I can't justify keeping spending money in a business that really isn't making a lot of money. My accountant tells me that the best thing I can do is retire and stop doing it. But I enjoy what I do. But the price of electric is going to price me out a bit at work. You know, how are bigger companies managing? You look at offices, they got all the lights on all the time. Garages, other small engineering companies may have 2 or 3 people working for them. If the electric price goes up, can they put their prices up? And if they put their prices up, are they going to lose work? You know, it's going to contract the economy. It's not going to grow the economy. If you put your prices up, you're going to get less work. Therefore, the GDP is going to go down. So all these net zero going green is actually destroying the country. You know, you take one of these wind turbines, how much energy it costs to make it, get it here from China, the carbon that it uses to make it, and then they can't recycle it when it's finished, and they've only got a 20-year lifespan. Then they have to be repaired, and then they might have another 20 years if you're lucky. The solar farms that they're putting up, the government are having to give the companies a subsidy to make it affordable, and then they give them an extra charge. It was 35 pence a unit they were getting for making solar electricity, which is more than we're paying for it. You know, now if you're making electricity and you're selling it to the grid or to the electric companies, they ought to be buying it less than they're selling it for retail. That's the logic way to do business. But last year when I looked at it, when I was paying 24 pence a unit, the solar panel companies were getting 35 pence a unit. Now I've got solar panels on my roof, and I sell that to EDF, and they give me 16.4 pence a unit. Now, that is not logical. Because they want people to have solar farms and make a profit at it, me as a single house owner, they won't let me make a profit on my solar panels on the roof. But these solar farms, the only way they can make it profitable for the companies to do it is give them a subsidy to build it to start with. Get rid of half the red tape for building permission. And then give them a hefty whack, more than retail, to sell it to the grid. You know, it was one guy at a small solar farm, and he was making as much money at night as he was during the day. And people were saying, well, how does he manage to get the same units of the 12 hours at night as he does in the 12 hours in the day? Of course, he's got an industrial generator next to the solar panels. So when it goes dark, they switch the electric generator on, which is diesel. But he's still getting the 35 pence a unit. You can't make this up. Where I go shooting, there's a wind turbine, and there's a little electronic shed out the back, and there's no wind yet. It's turning. So I said to the farmer, I said, how comes that's turning when there's no wind? He said, they got to keep it turning to keep the bearings lubricated. He said in the shed, there's a generator in the shed. So they're artificially turning the wind turbine round when there's no winds and still producing electricity that's going back on the grid. You can't make this up. You know, the government has got to cut electric prices. The poor, and I mean the people on Social Security and the people that haven't got a job and the disabled that can't work, have got a fixed income. And they might have help with housing and they might have PIP, which helps them. But if you keep putting the prices up on, that money they've got doesn't go anywhere. They are really struggling. Labour's supposed to look after the, downtrodden, as they say. Don't like calling them that, but you know what I mean. The people that are struggling. Labour couldn't care a shit. Sorry, excuse my language. Everything they do is have a go at what they see as far right and Tories. So they've had a go at farmers and put inheritance tax on it. They're now putting housing tax on. You're going to pay, if you sell your house and it's over 500,000, you're going to pay capital gains tax, which is at 40%. Now, I sold my old house and bought this one for the same price. So I didn't have a mortgage and I still haven't got a mortgage. All I have to do is pay solicitor's fees. So I sold one house and I bought this house. Didn't make a profit, didn't make a loss. They were the same price. But if you sell a house and it's over £500,000, you are now going to have to pay tax on it. Now they're talking at 20%, but some of the Labour people are talking about capital gains, which is 40%. Well, if you're thinking of moving, and a lot of elderly people that are sort of my age now, they've had 3 kids, the kids are all left home, they got grandkids, they don't need a 4 or 5 bedroomed house. So what they're doing is they're selling the house and downsizing by smaller bungalows, smaller houses, maybe 2 bedroom house or 3 bedroom house. So their house could be worth 7,500, 8,000, maybe £1 million. But they're going to have to pay 20 to 40% tax on it. And then they've got to go and buy another house, which is going to cost them around £500,000 anyway. It just doesn't compute. It's going to intercourse the whole system up. I would have said, but I won't. Not on YouTube. It is. Intercourse is a gunsmith's technical term for effed up. All right? Effed up. I can say that, can't I? But I'm going to be paying more for electric. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can survive, and I got money coming in. I got a small pension, private pension. I got my civil service pension, and I got my national pension. And it's still not enough to cover the bills. That's why I still work and earn a bit of money to help pay for the bills. And if I'm struggling, how are other people managing? And the next thing is, me and my wife, we got 2 different pension plans. My wife has national pension, which is round about £680 a month. My pension is over £800 a month. Why the difference? We're both worked all our lives, both paid into the system. You know, this conspiracy isn't right. If you're over 65 and you're entitled to your pension, everybody ought to be paid the same. You know, there was one report that I read a couple of months ago that doesn't want to put my pension up because I'm earning just over £800 a month. They want to put Pat's pension up because it's £680 a month, I think it is. Well, how's that right for me? I still got to pay stuff that's going up. She should be getting the same as me. And then both of our pensions should go up, in line with inflation, as they say. But it's just the price of electric. And gas is going up, mind. This Labour government is not going to help you. No wonder why people are putting out flags. And you've got to pay more taxes to pay for all these illegal immigrants. Now, don't get me started on that one. Anyway, rant over for today. Bye-bye for now.